Shane Bangle again from the Manna Group. Today we're going to spend some time of the age-old question, renting versus buying, and what is better. Is renting better? Is buying better? I think traditionally we've always thought that buying is better than renting. I would like to say typically I believe that holds up true. I think with where home affordability has gone and where interest rates are at, that's starting to become a question based on the market you're in. So in the grand scheme, I'll explain a little bit first, and then I'll be a little more specific to the Spokane, Coeur d'Alene market and what happens up here in the Pacific Northwest. So in the grand scheme across America, renting may be made slightly more favorable than buying at this point. Because home prices are higher and interest rates are higher, your monthly payment is typically substantially higher than what a monthly rental payment. So one of the maybe more aggressive markets, San Jose, California, your homes are $1 million to $2 million easily all day, every day for like a 2-bed, 2-bath condo. Just the market there is so excessive. So the payment on that, monthly can be up to $10,000 a month, and you can find a rental for $4,000 a month or $5,000 a month. So obviously that disparity makes renting a lot more attractive than buying, because theoretically you can take that difference in what you would pay for your monthly housing need and invest it into the stock market or other areas and make better returns than the appreciation of what you would get out of a home. I would say largely renting versus buying is very market specific, like the specific city, town, or place that you're in. Is specific to the phase in life that you're in, and then it's tied as well to what is going on in the market currently as far as interest rates, inflation, general economic factors. So let's try to attack some of those, and I'll speak to it from examples. About 4 or 5 years ago in Spokane, buying was far more advantageous than renting, and actually generally it was even cheaper. I remember a house we bought in 2020. We moved our primary residence. We were renting. Our rent was $1,800 a month for a 4-bed, 2-bath house right on a busy street. Obviously that rent wasn't crazy expensive. We went and bought a home that was for sale for $380,000, and our mortgage payment on that was about $1,750, and that mortgage payment included our taxes and insurance as well. So it was cheaper to own a home as far as our monthly costs than to rent a home. And then we had all the advantages of home ownership as well. Now home ownership is largely, I would say, on the advantageous side. There are definitely still cons. When you own the house, you're responsible to take care of any damages. You have to, if the hot water heater fails, then you have to replace it, and that's at your cost. If you have bigger issues, like let's say there's a huge hailstorm and it destroys your roof, that would be covered by insurance. So there are big costs that could be mitigated through insurance and the like that. So at that time in the Spokane market, I would say it was very clear because interest rates were low. We were right before the boom in the market, so appreciation was kind of average. I would say it's pretty fair to assume real estate will appreciate 4% on average. You start to average it out over 30 years, that's what you're going to see. Obviously there's peaks and valleys in there as it goes along. Right then we saw like a 20% increase in home value, followed by like a 31% increase. So that home that we purchased massively increased in value, and in a relatively short amount of time, 2 or 3 years, we had about $100,000 plus in equity in that home. Now that was not money I could go out and spend, but if need be, I could sell that house and use those funds to support my family. So that was a very clear time where owning was better than renting. Currently, now, some of that is, it's flipped the other direction. I would say generally speaking in the Spokane area, that's flipped to where it costs more for your mortgage than it would be to rent. I've had help clients, different scenarios. they bought a house and then they using it for investment. Their mortgage payment was about $2,400 a month. They're only able to rent that same house for $2,200 a month. So the long-term investment, it makes good sense for them, but you can see there was a $200 difference. So it was more expensive to have a mortgage than to rent. So on an individual case, you may have to start to factor. Now, what always becomes the question is if, let's take that exact scenario, if it's $200 less expensive, will you take that $200 and invest it into stock market, money market accounts, other things that your money's going to appreciate, or will you just simply find it to spend it on things in life? The difficult thing I'd say for most people is that we tend to say, oh, I have this extra, I'm going to spend on X, Y, or Z. Maybe I was going to get a used car, an early model 2000, I have extra $200 a month, I can afford a 2015 model. And so we find ways to spend it, and that's not something that's growing in value and appreciation. Generally speaking, I'll break down the pros of owning. So when you purchase a home, whatever way you want to cut it up, you have a cost to have a roof over your house, over your head. So if you're going to rent, there's a cost to rent a home. If you're going to own it, there's a cost to own that home, your mortgage payment, your insurance, your taxes. So if rent is, let's just say a round number, $2,000 a month, that is your rent payment. You pay it to your landlord. The nice thing is you have some hassle-free, right? Like if the hot water heater breaks, you don't have to replace it. You're maybe not responsible for lawn care, depending on what type of place you're renting. If your mortgage payment is, we'll just go even say slightly more, $2,400 a month for that same property, then you also have the responsibility for repairs and also maintenance. So you have $400 more. What I always tell people is the first thing that I would calculate out of that is I'd say, out of that $2,400, some of that is going to the principal that you owe. So if you're paying your rent, it's $2,000 is gone, your mortgage $2,400. In that first month, maybe $300 is getting applied towards the principal that you owe on that house. And this would be roughly $350,000 home. That amount payment right now with where interest rates are at. So I borrowed $350. Now I paid $300 in principal. I only owe $349,700. The next month, another $301 comes off. The next month, $302, because the way interest is amortized over the life of the loan. So we could deduct that and say instead of paying $2,400, you're technically paying $2,100. So we're getting closer to even at this point in renting and owning. Still more expensive to own than rent. Where I would say it largely makes up for it is in the appreciation of your home. So if you have a $350,000 home, and let's just say we're gonna say about 4% increase, so that would be roughly, we're gonna round it down, about $13,000 that it'd appreciate in the first year that you own it. So because 4% growth on 350,000, so that's a little over $1,000 a month that you're gaining in value in your home. So now I take that $1,000 off the $2,100, and now I'm $1,100 in technicality my payment. I don't get to realize that money until I sell, so it's not like money I have to spend. But now you can see where owning can be considered vastly cheaper than renting, even when the initial monthly is different. I think it's a big question that you have to answer. Is renting or owning better right now? And I still think in this Pacific Northwest market, in Spokane and in Coeur d'Alene area, it definitely is more advantageous to own than to rent based on market indicators. I also think that interest rates will start to creep down slowly. So, we're in the 6 to 7 range right now. That won't maintain. And once you get down into the 4.5%, it makes it drastically more favorable to owning than renting. And a big key factor that I would encourage you to consider in this current snapshot of time, what are we in, August of 2024, is that rates are high right now. They have the indication of coming down, If they come down substantially, home prices will go up because we still have a home shortage here in the Pacific Northwest due to the growth that we've had. So prices will go up. So entering the market now, even though kind of the picture of renting versus owning may not look as favorable, in a year or 2 years you'll be able to refi, and owning will be drastically more advantageous than renting at that time, because also rents will increase. A very aggressive measure of rents is they double every 10 years. I'd say maybe it's more fair to say they double every 15, but that means just little incremental increases over time, whereas mortgage will stay pretty level. Your property taxes and insurance will go up, but those are not extreme costs. This is really just scraping the surface on owning versus renting. There's really great calculators online that you can use to kind of ask the question for you personally. I would say a good general rule of thumb to consider is that the longer amount of time you're going to stay at a property, owning becomes vastly advantageous compared to renting the longer you're at a place. If you're going to only be there for 2 to 3 years, it's something that you need to strongly consider. Do I rent right now or do I own? And which is better?